So essentially, that was great because there was already a lot of infrastructure already in place. So because they were already cooking and storing food there, there was the commercial kitchen, the walk-in fridge and freezers, and the our current warehouse, which was the hall area when they held events there. So the greenhouses and gardens were built during the United Way days with the hopes of growing food to distribute to agencies that Harvest serves. So the food banks, food pantries, and social service agencies that are registered. And in 2022, the Rural Agri Innovation Network, or RAIN for short, division of the Sault Ste. Marie Innovation Center took over to planning to continue that food security work and expand to support local food entrepreneurs. So what we do, so very simply put, the kind of 4 or 5 main tenets of what we focus on are food rescue, food distribution, food systems education, urban farming, and most recently acting as a food business incubator. So why do we do it? As I'm sure most of you folks are already familiar with, there's a lot of food that goes to waste. So approximately 1/3 of food produced for humans goes to waste, while over 5 million people in Canada suffer from food insecurity. And as you once again likely already know, food waste is a major contributor to climate change. So thirdly, a lot of people are very disconnected from their food systems and know very little about how their food is actually produced and where it comes from. So that is part of the reason why we think that the food systems education component is so critical. So just to touch a little bit more on the impacts of food waste on climate change, since this is the climate hub, according to EPA studies, decomposing food waste can cause up to 58% of methane emissions from municipal landfills, which is problematic because methane is a very powerful greenhouse gas with a warming potential of about 20 times that of CO2, which means that diverting food waste from local landfills is an effective strategy to reduce these emissions. So our approach kind of tackles the issue from both sides. So on one hand, we are ensuring that nothing that can still be eaten goes to waste. And on the other hand, we're making sure that that food that we're rescuing is going to those that need it most. So how we do it. There's a lot of things on this list, and I'll dive into a few of them in more detail. So the number one thing is rescuing food from grocery stores and other retail locations. The second would be growing food in our own greenhouses and gardens. And we partner with over 70, or well, it used to be over 70, over 60 active agencies currently since the beginning of the year are distributing food to those in need. So they're able to come and access food from our warehouse and bring that back to their clients. We also encourage different organizations, businesses, and even individuals to host fundraisers or food drives. So those are our community partners. We work with Clean North to compost any food scraps that we do end up with. I'm sure most of you folks are familiar with Clean North and their work, as they're quite there's a significant alignment between the work that Clean North does and the work that the Climate Hub does. And we also bring in students for hands-on learning experiences. So on the slide, you can actually see in the bottom right corner, that's a group of Sault College students that were in doing a workshop on worm composting with Don McGorman of Clean North. And most recently, we've been using our social enterprise Meals by Harvest to generate revenue that's then reinvested back into our social mission. So I'm going to talk about some of the programs and fundraisers that we are continuing since the Innovation Center's takeover and some improvements that we've made to those existing programs. So the Great Pumpkin Rescue happens every year just after Halloween, once everybody they're done with their pumpkins. They've sat on the porch for a couple weeks and now they don't know what to do with them. So a lot of people will end up just chucking them out into the landfill, or they'll go and dump them into wild areas, which isn't a great solution because it's not a good idea to be feeding wild animals. So what we do is we'll collect all those pumpkins. So the intact pumpkins, things that haven't been carved or decorated, will get cooked off and then preserved as frozen pumpkin puree, and we'll take that out throughout the year to use in things like soups and breads and muffins. And then the carved pumpkins are either composted, or we do have the option for people that want to come pick stuff up if they have livestock. So you can see in the top corner there, we've got some cute goats from somebody that had picked up some pumpkins last year and just fed them to their goats. So all kinds of animals love pumpkins too. So if you got goats or chickens or pigs or cows or even dogs, like dogs love cooked pumpkin, and that's honestly even better than composting it because you know it's getting somebody fed anyways. And last year we diverted over 20,000 pounds of pumpkins, so we're calling that a win. So the Easter bread sale, that was also something that was already taking place once we took over. So that is when each year before Easter happens, we'll take pre-orders for like braided Easter loaves, which are pictured there. And we've started encouraging businesses and organizations to support that by ordering loaves in bulk as Easter gifts for their employees. So that bottom photo there shows me and the crew at Sioux Nissan. So they ordered 30 loaves, one for each of their employees, and then all of that money gets reinvested right back into our programming. So the orders are picked up the week before Easter, and this year we raised over $3,600 in sales from our Easter bread. So shout out to Chef Ron and the volunteers who worked tirelessly in the kitchen to make that happen. So the seedling sale is currently on as we speak. So at the start of the growing season, we sell seedlings that we start in our own greenhouses. So we have a variety of veggies, herbs, and flowers stocked. And then once again, all of those proceeds directly support our food rescue and food security initiatives. And then the seedlings that don't get sold are planted in our greenhouses and garden beds. Historically, we've run it for the course of 1 week, but this year, because we have our storefront now, we actually decided to extend it to the end of June. So if anybody in the group is looking to get some plants, we have lots of them. So I encourage you to come and take a look at what we have and take a look at the storefront. So food rescue and distribution, which was kind of the whole raison d'etre for Harvest Algoma being initialized in the first place, still going strong. So we rescue food from local grocers and food retailers 4 days a week. Our food rescue partners include Rome's, the Two Food Basics location, Two Most Finnish Bakery, Cobb's Bread, and the Great Northern Road and Trunk Road Starbucks locations. And we've also recently started partnering with Connect the Dots Community Harvest. So they are another food rescue charity and that they've been around for at least 10 years now. So Tim Kelly spearheaded that. He's got a crew of volunteers as well. So they started off rescuing food from local farmers markets. And now once a week on Wednesdays, they'll come in and they'll use our van to go and do like the food runs that we would already be doing anyways. Which is great because that frees up our operations coordinator to focus on other stuff that we have going on, because now that the food rescue is 4 days a week, it's a pretty significant time investment. So having their help even 1 day a week really helps us out. So an improvement that we've made, other than onboarding new folks that we're rescuing food from, is that we've essentially created a new tracking system from scratch that automates all of our data collection. So the bottom photo there, you can see we have a kiosk that consists of a tablet and a floor scale. So rather than how it worked before was when agencies would come in, typically they would have like a banana box. They would fill the banana box with whatever they would need from our food resource center. And say if they were feeding a family or they were picking up for more than one client, what they would have to do is take that box, put it on this little scale that we had on a table. They weigh the box, they would write it down on a piece of paper. And if they had more than one box, they would add it up on like a scrap sheet with a calculator. And then that would be in a sheet that we would then have to take and transfer all of that data over into a spreadsheet digitally. So we would have all that info. But now it's very much streamlined. So what happens is they roll the whole cart of stuff that they have onto that weigh scale on the floor. They can log into that tablet kiosk. Each agency rep has an assigned QR code that's essentially just like a key tag that they would keep on their either their work ID or their car keys. They use that to sign in, and then there's a screen that pops up where they put in the amount of food that they've taken, and then the next screen prompts them to put in how many clients they're serving, and then they hit the finish button, they get a little check mark, and then they're all good to go. So we've heard pretty much nothing but positive reviews from the agencies that are using this. And what we've also been doing, which wasn't happening before, is we've been collecting all of that data of the food that we're rescuing as well. So when my coworker Jeff gets in, or when Tim from Connect the Dots comes in, everything comes out of the van, goes on a cart, gets weighed on the scale, and then all of that data is input too. So not only are we keeping track of everything that's going out to all of the different agencies, we're also keeping track of everything that we're rescuing as well. So that's great. Just to have those metrics and have those numbers for, say, when we're doing impact reports at the end of the year, or we are asking for sponsorships, or if we're applying for grants, to have those numbers to demonstrate the positive impact we've had really makes a big difference. And now that I'm saying all this, I'm kind of kicking myself for not actually having included any of that impact data in this in this presentation. But I can tell you confidently, after having checked them earlier this month, that we are well over 130,000 pounds of food that have been rescued just since the beginning of 2025. And around the same that's been going out. So it might be a little less. I think it was like 127,000 when I last checked, but those numbers go up pretty much every single day. So we're probably sitting around 150,000 at this point. And another way that we rescue food is we will request transport loads of food from Second Harvest. So they're a larger Toronto-based food rescue organization, and they operate at like manufacturer retail warehouse scale. So what we'll do is we'll reach out to their reps, and they will let us know when they have a truck available. So that's stuff that they're rescuing from, like, say if there's a warehouse and they can't get rid of. So let's say, for example, what's pictured there in that top corner is a bunch of tomatoes and peppers and grapes, which was our most recent truckload, as well as like a ton of salad dressing. And we never really know what's coming on the truck. We'll get like vague terms like, oh, it's produce, it's non-perishable goods, it's snack foods. Like, that's what we're working with. So it's always kind of surprising to see what comes off the truck. And you can't really tell in that picture, but our warehouse was absolutely loaded to the ceiling with produce. And we actually held a produce pop-up and managed to we distributed as much as we could to the agencies we work with, and distributed to like even further organizations outside of our usual scope, including long-term care homes, daycare facilities, etc. Then we reached out to restaurants and said, hey, would you like to make a donation? And you can come and take as much stuff as you need. And then eventually we just made a call out to the community and said, whoever wants to come and get a bag of produce can do that. We would like either like a pay what you can donation, or if you make a purchase from the storefront, we'll give you a bag in exchange. So yeah, we actually moved over 27,000 pounds of produce out of the warehouse from the beginning of Monday to Wednesday of that week. At like 3 p.m. everything was gone. So it was quite an effort, but we did it. Oh, my slideshow is lagging. Oh my goodness gracious. Why is this? All right, here we go. Every breakfast counts. So some of you may be familiar with this program. It's a partnership between Algoma Family Services, the District Social Services Board of Algoma, and Harvest Algoma. So this is a meal program that distributes approximately 1,200 meals a week to children in need during the summer. So essentially how it works is we order and store the food with the money that's been fundraised to support the program. Our volunteers will assemble the lunches. So you can see in the photos there, they're putting together a bunch of ham sandwiches and then packing them all into the brown bags. And then volunteers that are recruited from other community organizations they'll sign up for a week, and then they'll come in for the course of that week, and their volunteers will pick up all the lunches that have been packed and then drop them off at the different drop-off points around town. Just this last year, we added the downtown library to our roster of pickup locations. So that cute little girl on the bottom is grabbing a lunch for her and her brother that were playing at the library that day. So that more or less covers the programs that we're continuing to run that were already in place before the takeover. And now I'm going to touch on some of the new programs and fundraisers and a little bit of what's to come in the future. So, oh my gosh, I don't want that to happen again, but it keeps lagging. All right, so first and foremost, we have our social enterprise Meals by Harvest that I vaguely alluded to earlier in the presentation. So this is our storefront. It's located in the same building as our food resource center. That storefront door that you're seeing pictured there is located on the east side of our building. And we have all kinds of frozen oven-ready meals for sale. We have desserts and baked goods and pierogies. And we also have lots of microwavable options as well. That is essentially like an entree with a starch and a vegetable side. So it's kind of structured to be like a complete meal for anybody that needs like a quick, easy meal. We have lots of folks that come in and pick stuff up, say if they have like elderly or infirm parents that aren't able to cook for themselves, or they don't like to cook, or say, like, actually, we just had a man and his father come in. So this man who comes in to buy these meals, he's 82, and he says, I'm buying these meals for my father, who's a 102-year-old World War II veteran. And he actually brought him in last week. So I got to meet this 102-year-old man who's been eating our meals, who served our country. And he was like, I really like your roast beef. So I'm like, okay, great. Thanks, Ken. So yeah, we're actually getting him set up to be able to have his meals paid for through Veterans Affairs, because he was not satisfied with Meals on Wheels. So that's been great to know that that's like it's a super convenient and like nutritious option for like a lot of folks in the community that otherwise wouldn't be cooking for themselves. So yeah, we are looking to expand our partnerships with other local food businesses and retail locations. Currently, we have stuff that's stocked at Grocer for Good down on Gore Street and the Countryway on Brock Street. So they have like display freezers in their storefronts, and we stock their freezers with stuff, and then we get some of the money back from that. There's a seniors discount on Tuesdays. We get 10% off on Tuesdays to ensure that our meals are accessible. And we also have a website that allows folks to order online. So if you visit mealsbyharvest.ca, you can take a look at everything that we have in stock and the prices of everything. And you can place your order right online and then come pick it up in store. So now I'm going to talk about the many new fundraisers that we have initiated over the last calendar year or so. So not to like pat myself on the back or too much or anything, but and I'm not going to say these were all my ideas, because they weren't. A lot of these ideas were things that were kind of already in the works that I either then was like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, let's do it, or had been adapted. So we'll start with Harvest Bowl. So our first Harvest Bowl event was just held last month on April 5th. And how that worked was we had a bunch of awesome local artisans donate handcrafted bowls and towards the event. And then we had local restaurants recruited. So the event took place at the downtown plaza. We had everybody set up with tents, and folks who bought tickets would come and pick out one of the handcrafted bowls that was their favorite of the bunch. And then they would use that handcrafted bowl to go from station to station and try all of the different soups and stews and chilies that were being offered. And it was a lot of fun, despite the weather being really inclement. It got kind of cold, and it started off so nice. The day was beautiful, like beautiful morning, nice and sunny. Everything seemed great, and then it kind of took a turn around 3:30. It got kind of windy and cold and a little bit snowy, and we had live musicians playing on the stage, and I felt really bad for them because they were freezing their butts off, but they did a really great job regardless. We got very positive feedback about the event despite the weather. That was essentially the only bad thing anybody had to say about it, which is a win because that's the one thing that's out of my control. So yeah, that was the first time we'd done that. It was a lot of fun. And then last year we actually had our first community barbecue. So that was held in September. That bottom photo shows my lovely friend and volunteer at that event, Karina, serving somebody up with their food. And so that was like a more family-oriented event. We held a barbecue. There was a dunk tank. Our volunteer Deb got in the dunk tank, which was awesome. There was an archery range that was set up by Arrows in Motion that the kids really enjoyed. And there was free face painting, and the food that was for sale were like the proceeds that would go back towards our programming. One that's coming up real soon that I'd love to get you folks up to date on is a night at Harvest. So this is coming up on Friday, June 20th. This will be our second time doing this event. That middle photo with the folks seated in the greenhouse and our lovely display of appetizers is from last year's event. So there was also a silent auction portion. There was a bar where we were selling signature drinks and local beers and wines. And this year we're going to have live music, so it'll be even more special and awesome. So I hope to see some of you there. The tickets are actually on sale at mealsbyharvest.ca. And we also have an event page on Facebook where you can check out some more of the details. I believe the menu is posted there. And yeah, we'll just be like updating that event page with any new developments in terms of like updating on live music performances and what kinds of auction items we have and all that good stuff. So yeah, check it out, please. And the final one, I feel like I'm missing something. As I was making this list, I was like, I swear to God, there's something else. But the one that comes up at the end of the year is our holiday baking sale. So during December, we sell pre-made boxes, not pre-made. We assemble the boxes with holiday baked goods that we make in-house with our chef and volunteers. That's the top one of the samples. That was my photo display version of it that I put together to take a nice picture of in the top photo there. But yeah, we sold tons of them. I think we sold well over 100 boxes, and that was the first time we'd ever done that. So it was very encouraging that next year, or this year, I suppose, will our sales might be even better, and some of the same folks that came might come again and spread the good word. So it's really great when we can do kind of like not low effort, but we're already doing a bunch of baking in the kitchen anyways. Like Ron's got co-op students baking like literally hundreds and hundreds of cookies all week long, every week. So it just kind of seemed like it fit right into our normal activities. And then all we had to do was arrange for a day where we had like a larger group of volunteers come in and help us pack them. So the OLG team actually reached out and wanted to do like a corporate volunteer day. So we had a lovely group of ladies from OLG come in and help us assemble all the boxes so nicely. And yeah, that was just like, it was the first time we did it. Everything, the stars kind of aligned to make it happen. So I'm really happy with how that turned out. Oh, my slideshow's acting up again. Yep. All right. Okay, so another thing that we started doing over the last year, I think we really started these like last May, June, kind of like field trip season of last year. So what we do is we encourage local schools to host food drives to collect non-perishable food and hygiene items for our food resource center. And the incentive is that whatever class brings in the most food wins a field trip and pizza party to Harvest. So they're really into that, as I'm sure you can imagine. Kids and pizza, it's a winning combo. But what makes it special is instead of just like buying a pizza from Aurora's or whatever, the kids actually get to come in and make their own pizzas. So we actually have one of these going on tomorrow. So that should be lots of fun. We have a grade 4 or 5 class coming in from Tarrant Taurus, I think. So what they do is, well, like we have all the stuff, like all the dough is made ahead of time, and we have all the cheese and sauce and whatever, and then they get into groups. They take turns stretching out their pizza dough and then putting on the sauce, and then they can make the pizza with whatever toppings they like. Then we throw those in the oven while those are cooking. What we'll do is we'll split them up into groups and take half of them on a tour of the building to show them all the different stuff that we have. They love the freezer. Kids love the freezer. I actually got a stack of thank you letters yesterday from one of the teachers who brought them in. And I'm going to say like 90% of these letters were like, I really loved the fridge. The fridge was so cold. The freezer was really awesome. And it's just hilarious to me that something like, as to me, kind of like mundane as a walk-in fridge is like a super awesome experience for like an 8-year-old child, which makes sense because, you know, it's like novel experiences and all that. They think it's really funny when we pretend that we're going to shut the door and lock them in. Obviously, we don't do that, but they get a kick out of that. So yeah, you can see in the middle photo there, one of our student volunteers, Kira, is serving up some of the pizzas that they made. That bottom photo, they're all standing in the cargo van, which is another thing they really seemed to enjoy, was just like piling into the back of the cargo van. And we do accommodate individual classes as well. So sometimes, even if this whole school hasn't done a food drive, I'll have a teacher reach out individually and ask. And all we ask is that they either make a monetary donation, or if the class itself does a food drive, so we get some canned goods in. Every little bit helps. So yeah, And oh yeah, I'll take the other group out to the greenhouse and they get to plant a bean because those are really fast growing and like a nice low risk, high reward kind of activity for the young kids to take part in. So this is kind of where the future and present collide. So we've recently started renting out the kitchen. So one of our major goals is having since taken over, like with Rain having taken over, we're really looking to support local food entrepreneurs to develop and grow their businesses. So our commercial kitchen that currently exists can be rented at a rate of $25 an hour for a 2-hour minimum with the provision of a certificate of insurance. Um, and our current office space, it has like a, you know what I mean, a staff fridge and a couple offices and like a coffee machine. That area is actually going to be retrofitted into a test kitchen, which is specifically designed for product development. So we are actually looking to start ordering some of that equipment very soon. And that's really awesome because it's going to essentially offer a space where all of that capital intensive equipment can be accessed by small food businesses in a certified kitchen space. So as I'm sure you can imagine, one of the biggest barriers when it comes to food startup, like any kind of startup, when it comes to small business, especially when it comes to food and food products, is that if you don't have the right equipment, it is almost impossible to be able to get your product to the level where you're able to, like, say, sell it at a retail location. So what we want to do is essentially break down that barrier. So rather than a small business owner thinking they have to invest in these big pieces of equipment to even get their business off the ground, they can come and just rent the kitchen at an hourly rate, have access to all of that super fancy, awesome equipment that they can use to test their products, develop their products, and like make them fit for consumers. They can do that all on site. And we also, since we're partnered with the Innovation Center offers a lot of business development services already that are non-specific. So Rain is kind of like specifically focused on the food business, but then also they have the option to access the business services through SMIC that offer things like business plan development. They have some different kind of cost share grants that can be applied for. And they essentially are just like there to offer advice to anybody who has questions about whether they're starting it, whether they're new to it, whether they are adapting to new types of systems like having digital marketing and media. All of those supports are available through the Innovation Center, and then we kind of have like the food storage, food safety, food equipment side handled from the Rain and the Harvest Algoma perspective. Is that my last slide? Let's see. Oh my gosh, my slideshow's acting up again. Oh yes, of course, I would be remiss to end this presentation without giving a shout out to our lovely volunteers. So here are some great photos that I have taken over the course of the last 2 years. So one of my other roles in this job is to make sure that we're capturing all of these moments and then posting them on social media. So yeah, they're used to like having my camera up in their faces and they're always very good sports about it. So yeah, and I think one of the best parts about this job is that there's just like people from so many different backgrounds and so many different life experiences and even like stages of life and like just a really awesome diverse crew of people that we have that are coming in and contributing that see the value in our mission and are just like super down to help us make it happen because we're only a staff of about 4 people, give or take some interns and my boss. So yeah, between the small handful of people that actually get paid to do this job, we would not be able to do even half of the stuff that we do. But because we have so many awesome volunteers that come in on a regular schedule, a lot of them are longstanding volunteers from even before the Innovation Center took over. We have recruited some new folks as well who are fitting right in and getting along with everybody, and they kind of adapt to whatever like niche or role we have because there's a few different areas of operation that they could fit into, whether that's the kitchen or the warehouse activities or the gardens and the greenhouses. So yeah, shout out to all my awesome volunteers. Thanks, Kara, for all that you do for us. She just gave us is it a hazelnut tree, a walnut tree? She has some kind of a nut tree and a gardenia to add to our gardens and greenhouses, which I'm very grateful for. So thanks, Kara. And I think my final slide is just like, thanks for attending. Any questions? Oh, no, one last one is ways you can support. So ways you can support our mission to feed our community and reduce food waste include monetary donations. Those are always great because we can use them for whatever we need to use them for, which, I mean, when it comes to nonprofits and charities is kind of a very important thing. So we are not currently a charitable organization, so we can't issue tax receipts, but any small amount is really helpful. Another thing that you could do is purchase meals from our storefront. So you can come on by and visit Meals by Harvest and see what we have available and see if there's anything that you'd like to try. You can attend our fundraising events like a night at Harvest that we have coming up. You could also host a food drive for non-perishable items. So the top photo there is a lovely lady who actually was hosting a family reunion, and she had requested that all of her family members bring some non-perishable food items with them. So she brought those all over, and that was super awesome. So we do take private donations of non-perishable food items. Like even today, there was a lady that like came by and dropped off like a small box of canned goods and some juice boxes, which is great because we're able to put that stuff right out on our food pantry shelves, and then they can be accessed by different agencies. And the most accessible way that you could support us, the easiest way, would just be to share the good word. So telling people about our mission, following us on social media, sharing our posts on social media, commenting on them, anything like that. Even just like bringing it up in casual conversation. I do it all the time, mostly because I work here. But it's just a really easy way to just help us and what we're doing, because the more people know about what we're doing and see the value in what we're doing and our mission and are willing to support it, the easier that makes it for us to do what we do. And if you would like to learn more or donate or submit a volunteer application, you can visit our website, harvestalgoma.ca. So now I'm actually done. Thanks for attending. Does anybody have any questions? Also, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now because I can't see anybody. I'm just looking at my PowerPoint, which is great for presenting, but not so great for question and answer periods.
Lauren, thanks so much. That was an amazing presentation, letting us know everything that's going on right now at Harvest Algoma. I think we've got a pretty small group here, so maybe people can just unmute if they have a question for Lauren and ask away with it, and we can have more discussion about Harvest Algoma. So
also, I appreciate that you're recording. We don't have our own dedicated YouTube channel, but we'd be happy to put it on. I'm assuming that you put your stuff online as well, which would be why you're recording it. So it'd be awesome just to even be able to share the recording after the fact, so that even if folks weren't able to make it, that they can still get all that good info.
Yeah, all of our webinars are posted to our YouTube channel, Lauren, so people can pick it up there in a couple of days.
Well, and I wonder, maybe in this case, since we had more people that maybe intended to come, but somehow the link was a problem for them, maybe we can send them the link, everybody who registered, so that so that they'll get it right to their inbox.
Just thinking. Yes, Sandra.
Lauren, you mentioned before that you have a chef on staff. Is that is it still Caroline McGoldrick, or is it sorry, not Caroline McGold?
Jane? No, Jane hasn't worked there since last May, but we have Chef Ron Black, who is the man. He's the best. They actually just did a Sault Ste article on him, kind of like detailing his culinary journey that brought him to us today. But yeah, he's like literally the most aggressively generous person I've ever met in my life, and we're so lucky to have him. He's like the hardest working man I've probably ever met. Like, no offense to my dad or whatever. But yeah, he's actually on vacation this week, so it's been a little slower than usual, but he's taken his family to Canada's Wonderland, so he deserves every second of that time off, because he's like the first one in every day like 6:30 on the dot, he's there starting up his prep for the day. So yeah, that's our chef. You can read about him on Sioux Today. I put the blog post on our website too, so you can read it there.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Lauren, I was wondering a bit about, I know when the transition to the Innovation Center came about, there was some, I guess you could say, question, and then moving forward in terms of funding the operation with the city and the United Way and other partners and so on. Can you give us an update on that side of it? Just who is involved in terms of funding it, in addition to the Meals by Harvest and the other donations that you have coming in?
Yeah, for sure. So we're currently on a 3-year funding commitment, both from the city of Sault Ste. Marie and from Algoma Steel. So they each gave us a pretty significant chunk that was to be split up over the course of the first 3 years of our operations. So we're currently just over a year and a half into that 3-year funding commitment. So once those commitments are fulfilled, we are unsure whether those specific entities are going to be renewing them, but we will likely do another kind of ask for funding from some of the larger agencies that are accessing food from our food resource centers. So for example, when we did that initial takeover, we kind of did that funding call out, which we got like a pretty decent response from. Like a lot of the larger agencies gave us like a pretty significant chunk of cash to be able to continue what we're doing. Because realistically, if we didn't exist with the services that we offer, a lot of those agencies would be spending tons and tons of money just trying to keep their clients fed, whether that's like the food banks or Algoma Family Services, Children's Aid Society, Community Living Algoma. Like a lot of these bigger organizations with like deeper pockets, so to speak, are accessing food, and we're not asking anything of their reps when they come in. Like that's kind of the whole thing, is they know they can show up, get their QR code, take whatever they need and get it to their clients, and it's not coming out of their pocket that way. So yeah, we likely will go back to some of those same organizations or some of the newer ones that have started accessing and say, hey, we're coming to the end of this 3-year commitment. If you want to be able to continue accessing this service, then we're going to need your financial support in one way or another. So that's kind of like on the horizon for another, I'm going to say 14 months from now or so. And in the meantime, so we've got those 3-year funding commitments. We've got the social enterprise, which is now generating revenue at a rate which is looking like it could be between $100,000 to $150,000 annually, which is great because that covers my salary and a bunch of other stuff too. So the fundraisers are another big part of that. So having that kind of like annual roster of events and things that we have going on each year, with the hopes of kind of like growing them incrementally each year. So say we had like 65 tickets we were selling for Harvest Bowl this year, you know what I mean? We look to sell 90 or 100 next year, and then just keep growing those events and like gaining more sponsorships and kind of like spreading that public awareness, so that by the time we're hitting that end of that 3-year funding commitment, that we know that we have that level of financial sustainability to be able to keep the lights on and pay our staff and all of that. An endorsement, Kara says, endorsements from Sioux Climate Hub towards our carbon emissions might be a consideration. Whatever that looks like, sure. that'd be great. So yeah, and then we also have the donations that are coming in from the general public. So once we have charitable status, we'll be able to issue tax receipts. We might be able to attract some larger corporate donors as well, with them knowing that they can get the tax receipt out of that and have it essentially written off. So that's kind of like a high level overview of like the financial sustainability plan coming over the next like 2 to 5 years, I would say. So we're pretty confident at this point. Things have been going pretty well. And especially for things like the storefront, we're hoping to be able to continue to scale that and, you know, make more retail partners and, you know what I mean, eventually maybe get it into grocery stores, and then have that just kind of continue to scale and be able to support our operations along with all of those other things that I mentioned. So yeah, that's kind of the financial forecast, so to speak. But there was like none of this was really in place back in United Way days. Like no shade to United Way. They opened this up with like really awesome intentions, obviously. And their whole thing was they wanted to like do it all for free. They're like, we're giving food away for free, we're doing it for free. And it's like, in theory, that's fantastic. That'd be great if we could just keep doing that ad infinitum. But unfortunately, there are financial barriers to all of these things, and eventually they found that it was actually becoming a financial burden to like keep the bills paid, keep the staff paid. The mortgage terms were just like insane. So thankfully we were able to restructure it and add some of those revenue generating mechanisms in, and we're looking pretty good in terms of the financial sustainability piece. So it's good news on that end.
Yeah, that is so huge. So kudos for you for being in a good financial position. I know that yeah, nonprofit world, being someone that works at a nonprofit, that finance question is always looming.
It always, yeah, I just got off
Yeah.
contract last July. Like I was like an
Oh,
intern and a research
congratulations.
assistant and like this and that and the other. And I'm like, I'm a permanent staff member now, baby. Like I got a pension, I have benefits. This is great.
Wow.
I got a business card, you guys, which might be like, I don't know, the biggest development of them all. So yeah, no, I'm feeling pretty good about it. Our staff's great. Our volunteers, like I was just kind of waxing poetic to you, are all very awesome. So yeah, I feel like that's the biggest thing is like if you know you have a mission worth supporting, like it kind of sells itself, so to speak. I mean, it's great opportunities like this to be able to just kind of share a little more in depth about what we do for the folks that otherwise really wouldn't know, because I mean, obviously the agencies who come to get stuff from us are well aware. Some of the clients they're serving know where that food is coming from. But I was just talking to Paul and Ted at the beginning before we brought everybody in, just to even like those field trips, like that's like an amazing piece of just like awareness and youth engagement for us, because the more of those young people that you can engage in these types of things, you know what I mean, then they have that level of awareness starting at a very young age, especially just around topics of like food security and food waste and environmental sustainability and what it takes to like grow your own food and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been a journey, I have to say. I've done a lot of things in this position that I've just like hadn't done before. I'm like, all right, we're planning a fundraising event. Haven't done that before. I guess I gotta learn how to do that. Digital marketing, I don't know. I like had an Instagram account, but it's like I don't know how to like effectively run an email newsletter or just things like that. So it's like it's been a real learning journey over the past year or so. So I'll be coming up on 1 year on July 1st. It's great actually. I was chatting with some of my coworkers about the A Night at Harvest event. So it'll kind of be the first time that we're recreating an event that we did last year. So that's like new to the roster of events. So we did it last June. It was crazy. I didn't have like a fundraising committee or anything. I was kind of just like it was actually an idea of a previous manager of Harvest under United Way, Carson Beauregard, who some of you may or may not be familiar with. He's like a local, he grows stuff and sells it. He used to be at the farmers market, but he was their greenhouse manager for a while. And he had this idea like, oh, we should do like a dinner in the greenhouse. How cool would that be? I was like, that'd be very cool, Carson. But like the financial situation was weird and United Way was not going to keep it running. So there was the transition and I was like, we need to make this happen. This is such a cool idea. Like I can't just like let that fall on its face. Like we got to bring it to fruition. So yeah, him and his wife came to the event, which was great. I'm like, Carson, this is all your idea. Look at us now, kind of thing. It's not going to be in the greenhouse this year because the greenhouse is full of garden beds now. It was empty at the time. But we'll have like an event tent set up in the back parking lot and the greenhouses will be open for people to like, we'll probably put the silent auction in there and maybe the bar. So there's an excuse to like go from place to place and you know what I mean, kind of explore the grounds a bit. So yeah, really encourage you guys to check it out. I'd love to see some of you guys there. It was a lot of fun last year. I was mostly like running back and forth from the kitchen to the greenhouse. But yeah, it's we got a lot of great volunteers that kind of all pulled together to really make it happen. And this year I do have a fundraising committee, so I've got other people helping me to pull this off, and I don't just have to do it all myself, which is really what it's all about. So yeah,
Totally.
I'm done yapping unless anybody's got any more questions.
Yeah, I actually do have a question. But yeah, totally relate to the wearing many hats, a younger nonprofit, like so relatable. But my question is kind of in that vein of like relationship building with specifically like the grocery stores that you're working with to divert food waste. Like, I feel like you hear a lot about like liability and like that being kind of a reason why grocery stores don't do this type of thing. So yeah, curious about like if you kind of face any barriers when trying to start up this food waste diversion program and yeah, what that kind of
Yeah,
process was like.
for sure. So I mentioned Second Harvest earlier when we were talking about food rescue. So another thing that they do, which I should have touched on, is they actually have their own program for that waste diversion piece. So they kind of take care of like all of the stuff that you just mentioned. So what the grocery stores will do is they'll sign up with Second Harvest. They have an app that essentially allows the employees to scan out whatever products they're donating to us. So as they're scanning it out, that like gets accumulated on their list of things that are donated, and that's all. Like I'm assuming that Second Harvest carries the liability for that. I honestly, I don't really know like the nitty gritty details, but I do know that they're essentially who facilitates it. There's Feed Ontario and Second Harvest, and Second Harvest is the one that we primarily deal with. And then, so once that's all scanned out, that actually they get a tax receipt for that. So they can take that value of whatever food items they've donated and get that as a write-off essentially. So yeah, so even though we're not technically a charity because it's facilitated through Second Harvest, they can get that tax receipt. So all of that stuff gets put aside and then we go and we pick it all up. So what their system is, if it's like, so for dairy products, for example, if something has hit its best before date, they technically can't legally sell it anyways. So what they do is they'll throw that all in the freezer. So nothing's actually going off. So we get like tons of frozen milk, cheese, yogurt, whatever. Then we go and pick that up and sort it. Kara, you did a lovely job sorting the dairy today. Thank you for helping with that. And then that all goes into our big freezer on site there, and then that can be accessed by agencies. So nothing is like really spoiling, with the exception of like maybe the produce. And that all gets like sifted through. So that's like another kind of volunteer process, is the produce sorting, and anything that's not fit for consumption will either get composted or it goes into what we call a goat box, because one of our coworkers has goats. So he'll take like all of the floppy chard and like outside gross lettuce leaves off of the romaine, and like whatever else that's goat safe goes in a box and the goats get that. Yeah. Oh, look at that. And Kara just put a very helpful link about how donations of food are protected by Ontario regulation. Thank you, Kara. So yeah, we thankfully have lovely volunteers who do kind of that sorting process for us, which really streamlines things compared to like a lot of, and it allows us to do it in a volume that other food banks and food pantries just like wouldn't be able to handle, because we do have a very large team of volunteers, because we have giant freezers and fridges and a commercial kitchen that we can process anything that needs to be processed in. So the system is like kind of down pat. So we have that advantage, and it's great because then other food banks, instead of kind of having to worry about managing those relationships, can just come to us, take whatever they need and whatever volumes they need it in, and then bring it back and distribute it to their clients in whatever time frame suits them. Leah, you have a question?
Yeah, please. I actually wanted to ask about your agriculture side. You mentioned a hazelnut tree that you're getting donated. I wanted to ask, are you, because my thing is sort of food forests and edible canopy, like, are you doing a lot of that, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so we have the 2 greenhouses on site. So there's two 30 by 100-foot greenhouses kind of nestled at the back of our property. When you're driving past, you don't see them because they're actually behind the church that's next door to us, but they're there. People will like pull into the parking lot and be like, oh my gosh, I had no idea these were here. I'm like, I know, surprise, surprise. We have a lot going on. And then we also have outdoor garden beds too. So there's about, oh, I'm going to say like 40 raised beds around the property. So we have raised beds all along the east side of the property. And then we have 3 rows in front of the greenhouse one way, and then 3 rows in front of the greenhouse another way, and then there's like a couple boxes along that driveway as well. So we have a few things that come back each year. So we have like some Saskatoon berries. We just planted a couple haskap bushes that were donated by Dawn from Clean North last year. We literally just got, is it a hazelnut, Kara? Is it a walnut? I know one of those two is not native to Northern Ontario. Oh yeah, amazing. I was just thinking it would be so helpful if I could share a satellite image.
Yeah, yeah, like the gardenia was actually a plant rescue from one of the grocery stores in town, and the hazelnut tree I bought accidentally without a partner, and I needed to get it in the ground so it would survive. And I will provide a partner, but I don't have it right now. So it is an American hazelnut tree.
You know what's funny? I actually found a hazelnut tree growing in one of our garden beds when I was weeding garden beds earlier today. I don't know how, but somehow a hazelnut made it into one of our raised beds. And I was looking at, I could see this sprout. I'm like, that looks really familiar. Is that what I think it is? And then I did a reverse Google search. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's literally a tiny little baby hazelnut tree growing in one of the beds that's like on the left-hand side there. But we did install some, maybe it was, I have no idea where it came from, but there was like the nut was sitting beside it too. Like you could see like where it had like sprouted out and like gone into the ground and like shot up. And it was funny, I was like with one of my high school volunteers, I'm like, Ryan, come and see this. It's not that important, but it's very cool and I want you to look. So yeah, we are looking to continue incorporating different kind of like edible perennials, so to speak. So like things that we could plant one year and then not have to worry about them. So it just makes my job so much easier. We have like a lot of herbs and stuff that come back each year too. So those are great just to have like a bed of thyme that comes up or a bed of mint. And I know mint is invasive and it does spread a lot, but thankfully it's contained in one of the garden boxes that's like on concrete. So I'm fairly confident it's not going to cause any concern. And yeah, Dawn just brought us some blackberry bushes last year. So we have a bunch of blackberries in pots that have overwintered that we're looking to put some in one of the beds. So those will come back each year. So each year we kind of just like add a new little piece. Last year we did some trellises too. So we have some arching trellises that go between a few of the outdoor raised beds that we like to try to grow vining crops. I tried to do beans last year and they did so poorly for whatever confounding reason. They were so bad. The ones in the greenhouse did great, but for whatever reason, my outdoor ones did very, very badly. I'm probably going to try cucumbers or something else on them this year. But yeah, so, and a lot of it is also like by volunteer suggestion, or if like people have an idea, like the hascaps were like, once again, Don McGorman, he's like, I have these haskap trees and I don't really want them. Can I bring them here and we could plant them somewhere? So yeah, like we'll put them in the boxes. That's fine with me. So yeah, it's just like piece by piece every year we kind of add something new or try something new. Asparagus is one of the things that I would really like to try to get into one of those outdoor beds as well, because that just is yet again another perennial crop that comes back each year that I don't have to worry about. So yeah, oh, my boss is texting me right now. We actually have big brothers, big sisters in our kitchen this evening. So they, every couple of months, will do programming out of there. So the big brothers and big sisters will gather in the Harvest Algoma kitchen, and then they try out like different snack recipes. Like last time, I think they did like different breakfast recipes. They made like breakfast burritos and like breakfast cookies and things like that. So that's just like another way that we try to continue those community partnerships. And like there seems to be some confusion as to when people are going to go lock up for them.
We're coming up on an hour anyways now, Lauren. I think unless anybody else has a real burning question for Lauren, maybe we could.
Yeah, I just have one. Sorry, I just have one quick question.
Yeah.
Lauren, I wonder if you can provide maybe a really quick stat that would help us sort of let our followers know how much food has been rescued that has saved from the landfill site, and how much greenhouse gas that has not been emitted because of all the food that you've rescued, maybe in 2024 or something, or
That's a great question. I can actually pull reports for stuff like that. Like specifically, like I know my coworker has to do a second harvest report every month that highlights how much of each category of food was rescued. So he'd definitely be able to pull those specific numbers for produce. So like that would, I don't know what the conversion rate on that is in terms of like pounds of produce to like methane emitted through anaerobic decomposition. I'm not up to my equations when it comes to that stuff, but I'm sure there is some kind of an equivalent that exists. So
Okay, yeah, we can do like did you know this, and then promote the your video now on our YouTube channel, so that it'll just entice people to go and
yeah,
watch it.
that
Yeah.
would be awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, I can definitely take a look at that. Food source report. Here we go. Yeah, this stuff isn't divided by the type. Oh, okay. Here, I can give you this general number for like all of our food that's been rescued though. It's actually, I guessed over 150,000. It's 206,441 pounds. 206,441 pounds of food have been rescued since the beginning of 2025.
Oh, since 2025. Wow.
Yeah, that's just since the beginning of the year. Like we've
Wow.
been
Okay.
tracking it more in depth since last October. And of that, only 6,800 pounds ended up getting composted, and 1,200 went to livestock feed. So we're doing pretty good on that. But yeah, I can definitely get you that number specific for produce, probably sometime tomorrow.
Sure.
Jeff's got to do his monthly report soon anyways, so I'll give him the poke in the ribs that he needs to get started on that.
Yeah, I would just be neat to have that quick stat,
Yeah,
so that
for sure.
put it out there. Okay.
I'll get you that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, over 200,000 pounds. That's crazy. Yeah, so we're estimating at least 500,000 pounds of food by the end of the year, depending on how many trucks we get from second harvest. But yeah, big numbers, that's for sure. It's always a few thousand pounds pretty much every time we go out and get stuff from the grocery stores. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, fantastic, Lauren. I just say thanks again on behalf of the Sioux Climate Hub for presenting tonight, and also just to say to folks, I mean, everybody knows where Lauren is now, so if they have other questions they want to ask her, they can contact her directly.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna put my email in the chat here too, so that if anybody wants to get a hold of me, you can always send me an email. I admittedly don't answer it outside of my usual work hours. But anytime between 9 to 5 on a Monday through Friday, I'm happy to answer any inquiries you may have.